you mean to tell me like all the information in the world is in this thing? And they're like, yeah, what do you do with it? We watch cat videos.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 429 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs. Joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. It's hard to say HIPAA today.
You're struggling with a lot of words. It's like,
Yeah. Don't check your audio settings. It's just me. Yeah, I'm still feeling nasally and congested too. So I sound worse than I feel, but probably not as bad as I look.
Well, you said it's you're passing it around amongst the whole family now that you have, the kids coming back and bringing kids with them.
Yeah. I told somebody this morning that I wake up sounding like Barry White and looking like Barry Manilow.
If you're lucky. Oh, geez.
Yeah, so it's going around for sure. So if anybody else is battling it, then just, line us up for a long stretch of listening and go to sleep. Or as somebody said, I listen to you in the shower. So as you're in there clearing your nasal passages out, you can listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah. Moving along, we're not going to talk about that. Let's don't talk about what you do in the shower, David.
Well, I did inform my wife that that some woman has me on in the shower. So she's like, "Oh, I bet she does."
Yeah, your wife just kept walking right on by too, didn't she?
Yeah, you're like, whatever, dream on.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So I do want to say thank you to those folks who are out there helping us keep the radio show alive.
Radio show.
Yeah, we are on the podcast radio show. And for those of you who donate, those of you who share, and those of you who do everything you can to support us, we definitely appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
All right. So let's get to our HIPAA briefs.
Oh, wait, I have something important before we talk about our briefs.
All right.
I have to do a shout out to Rebecca and her team that called us want to talk about Comply Assistant and some other stuff this week. And she's a podcast listener and listens every single week religiously. So I'm like, I'm not sure what's wrong with you, but but she really appreciates what we're doing. And I was supposed to tell you. So shout out to Rebecca. Thanks for being a listener and continue to promote us and hang around with us. We do it for you.
Yes, we do, Rebecca. We dedicate this show to you.
I didn't set him up for any of that. I'm just saying.
All righty. So speaking of Rebecca, no, we won't do that to her. All right. So let's get into the HIPAA briefs. Let's talk about, does HIPAA require ISAC participation?
So, no.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along. Probably need to talk about what is an ISAC, the ISAC, or in some cases, ISAO.
Mm-hmm.
What are they? Why are they important?
They both mean information sharing and analysis. However, one, the ISAC, tends to be, industry specific, and you're a member and they facilitate stuff and they help out and all of that kind of stuff. And then you have an ISO, which is not so well funded like the ISACs, and it's more about all of us little people being able to share the information and at least know what's going on out there. You may not be able to get all the support you get from an ISAC, but the ISO at least keeps you up to date. So there's a lot of varying levels of all of those things. But does HIPAA require it? No. However, Hiccup recommends it.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's what we're going to talk about later today.
Yeah, definitely good to have. I mean, at one time, there was, let's say, a lack of information, oftentimes. Nowadays, there is no lack of information. Now there's just like, what information should I pay attention to? Because
Yes.
I have 100 million things hitting me every second of the day. So the challenge now isn't finding information. Challenge now is, what should I really focus my attention on? And that's part of what we do within the Cardin Club and HIPAA for MSPs is we take this information coming from ISACs and ISOs, and we boil that down even further to say, these are things you should be paying attention to.
Yep, we're looking at kind of expanding what we do on that, but we think it's important to provide that service in some way, and we certainly can't do it through the podcast because we record a couple weeks out. You never really know when we're recording things. And the timing is important with a lot of these alerts. So that's why we're trying to build as much as we can into Cardin Club and HIPAA for MSPs. And this was one of the areas where we thought we could help out.
Yeah. And this is also kind of a double-edged sword kind of thing, because you have that alert fatigue that happens with anything, but especially with this. And all these things come out. And I know, like for me, I'm trying to figure out what do I want to actually push out to my clients. I worry about a lot more than they worry about. So I try to really distill that down to say, these are the things I'm worrying about for you. And then these are the things you need to be worrying about with me.
Yeah.
And that way I'm trying not to hit them with so many things, because, the last thing I need is for them to say, yeah, I mean, you send me all these alerts all the time, but what do I need to pay attention to? So I try to look at like very specific things. For example, if there's an alert coming out about, a Cisco router, I'm not going to send that out to my entire client base. I'm only going to send it out to those who might have a Cisco router.
Right.
And do things like that so that it's very, very specific. And in those cases, though, when those come out, usually we'll already have done the work to identify whether or not they should worry about it. So we don't even tell them then. It's like, we've already handled it. There's no need to let you know. Nothing to see here. Move on. So that when we do send you something that needs your attention, it should be of much higher value.
Yep, we want you to pay attention.
Exactly.
So within the club, though, and HIPAA for MSPs, we can't necessarily be that specific about it.
Right.
But we try. Now, some of it, we just have to say, hey, you should read this.
Yeah.
But others, we actually will write a little bit of a summary saying, okay, ask IT if you use this or do this, or, find out if your vendor is this whole move it thing, that data breach. We could tell people all day long about it, but only the vendors are going to be able to correct that. And you can ask them about it, and they're going to tell you. So we didn't spend a lot of time because that's buried deep in applications. We let people know, but it's buried so deep in applications, we're still seeing that thing all over the place.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Yep. So if you're not getting information from somewhere, you are probably in bad shape and don't know it.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. This is not a time to stick your head in the sand and try to ignore it. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, and in Hiccup, we have 2 different things that are recommended. And I even went back to check your Cyber Pulse to see what we put on there, because it is for small organizations as well. And I wanted to make sure that we point out this is not just for large organizations. Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that in just a minute. But first, we got to do HIPAA say
what? Yeah. So here's a topic that came from a thread online, as a lot of our topics do. And the question is, does HIPAA allow healthcare providers to look at their own healthcare records within their own EHR? And I stumbled across some forum, and there was conversation about, can doctors or nurses or whomever, can they pull up their own medical records in the place they work at, whether it's hospital or small office or whatever? They should be able to look at their own stuff, right? Because, you can, as a patient, you have access to your patient records. So can I look at them if I have access?
Under HIPAA, the strict reading of HIPAA, the answer would be no. Because HIPAA says every patient has the right to access their records, but the people that are working with their records and have access to the EHR, in order for them to look at a record, they must be participating in treatment, payment, or healthcare operations activity related to their job.
Mhm.
So technically, under HIPAA, yes, the patient has every right to get to it, but you're operating as a patient, not a provider or an employee of the organization that has the EHR.
Right.
So if you're not one of those, if you are treating yourself, I don't worry about the liability to the organization. Most groups want to make sure that you're not posting your own payments. I can't tell you the number of times I've been called in over the years where one person was allowed to do whatever they wanted to do with the money, and then suddenly they disappeared and there was no money in the bank. So there's a reason people do that. And so that would mean you're doing your own payments and you would be looking only at the payment data, but that's not what people are talking about.
You write your own prescriptions.
Yeah. Those kind of things. Healthcare operations is, I'm only seeing this record because I'm participating in running the business, which that gets complicated sometimes. And so with that in mind, just like anything else, what is reasonable and appropriate in your environment? It's technically a HIPAA violation for you to look at records that you are not involved in TPO as part of your job.
Right.
Period. Doesn't matter who it is. Now, my favorite, I was teaching this in a class. It was like a big cardiology group, and I love it. One of the people sitting right up front in the room goes, "Well, how am I going to see my records then?" How does any other patient see them? Same way.
Yeah.
Experience the customer service side of what you're doing. That's how you look it up. That's how you get the information. You follow the same rules as any other patient if you're a patient.
Yeah. What happens if you don't get your records within 30 days and you work there?
Yeah. That gets complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So technically, what I would recommend most institutions do, most organizations, whatever you want to do, I would say the policy should say if you're a patient, you're a patient. If you're an employee, you're an employee. You're not doing both roles at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're being a patient, you can't be an employee at the same time, technically. And from a liability thing, there's a lot of reasons you have to worry about. Well, I can see my record, but I can't see my spouse's record or my kid's record. Now I'm going to start, how many different avenues am I going to open up? I can look at my brother's record. Can I? Really? Because I can look at my own. Well, he told me it was okay. Now, you see, it just creates too much madness. Mm-hmm. You're either a patient or an employee, and you can't be both at the same time as far as HIPAA is concerned.
Yep. This is one of those cases where just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
I think that's listed in HIPAA. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I think we should. I mean, we narrow things down. First of all, you don't know what you don't know should be right there at the top. If you think you know all of this, you don't. I mean, I can't tell the number of people where they're telling me they know everything, and I'm like, I don't know everything, and I read it all the time.
Yeah.
There's stuff I have to go look up all the time in the law.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know everything, and just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah,
I like that.
Good rules for life.
Yeah, you're right. That's what those are the things that you tell teenagers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So 405D tip of the week. Man, last time we talked about some free posters, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That you can get But now they've gotten even more high tech. In just one single week, you can get free videos now.
Yeah, well, they're doing the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, one video a week, following the program of the 4 habits they want you to pick up. And there's videos coming out about each one of them. They're going to release one every week, I think. So you can go to the 405d.hhs.gov website to get a direct link. They're all on YouTube. We're putting them in our portal for the learning portal. For folks that use the Cardin portal, look there. And if you don't see it, call Krista. But it's definitely there, and it's just more free stuff for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So don't tell me you don't have time and you can't afford it. That's what you need to say to anybody. We can't afford it. We don't have time. It's free. It's a video you watch on your own, and they're not hour-long movies.
No, I think it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which I know nowadays, that's a lifetime. It's 4 minutes and 7 seconds on the first one. So
there you go.
There's at least once a day you're probably sitting down for 4 minutes. Not saying where you might be in the house, but it's probably happening.
If you're healthy, probably once a day.
I just leave it at that.
Yeah, my grandfather always called it the library. I'm going to the library. I'll be back.
Exactly. So don't tell me you don't have time. There's some time in the day you're not busy doing something. Where you can actually multitask this way.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, like at the turn of the century, which feels like a long time ago in relative terms, not so much. But I did a regular course for my clients, and it was understanding where technology's going. Technology's moving rapidly. You need to understand all this. And every year I would go through, here's how things are changing. This is what's about to happen. Explaining the explosion of what we're about to be able to do with data and on these mobile networks. And all this was like, when it was still a BlackBerry and you were cutting edge with a BlackBerry or a Trio.
Yeah. And you were worried about Y2K.
Yeah, I did do a lot of work for Y2K.
I did too.
There's a lot of people that worked really hard so that you didn't have to deal with the crisis of Y2K.
I was flashing BIOSes everywhere.
No, like crazy. People don't know. They're like, it was a big fat nothing. From our perspective, the fact that I knew everything was up and running the next day, I'm like, I'm great. It's a big fat nothing because we worked so hard. But anyway, I would show them I had a meme that back then was really funny. Today, not so much, but it was a picture of a stall in a restroom with somebody's feet on the floor and their laptop on the floor, and they're bent over typing in the stall in the bathroom. And that concept at that time was totally foreign. And today, people are like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Where's my phone? I mean, it's just don't drop it in, those things come into play. Back then, we didn't even know. I kept telling people, this is what's coming. You're going to have your technology with you everywhere, every move you make. So today, we do have it with us everywhere, every move we make. We have no excuse for not being accessing the information. The problem is we have the tools and we choose to access some funny video of a monkey. I've seen some really funny ones lately. But anyway,
Yeah.
that time, back then, that seemed like so foreign. And today, no one thinks twice about it.
Yeah. I can't remember what movie it was, but it was something similar to that where the guy was like, you mean to tell me like all the information in the world is in this thing? And they're like, yeah, what do you do with it? And like, we watch cat videos.
Yeah, or the IT crowd where they taught what's her name, that the internet was this box, and she thought she was teaching, like she had the master secret. That was funny too.
Yeah.
But we digress.
Yeah.
as we are known to
I
do.
think one of the funniest tickets I ever got was a lady who brought her computer in and she said, "I can't download the internet." And, I was like, yeah, I can't either."
Now, or the ones that used to tell you deleted the internet
Yeah.
because they couldn't find the AOL or
Mhm.
the blue circle with an E,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
You deleted the internet.
which is that's indicative of how far we've come, all those things that we're talking about, but it also explains what we're talking about today with why there's an importance of these alerts and why they come from everywhere,
Mhm.
because we're using this stuff
Ev
everywhere.
Yep, everywhere, even places you don't even consider.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing, if it can connect, it can infect. That's my new little rhyme.
I like it.
Yeah. I feel like moving right along, we all know about rhyming. So, with all of those things happening, and then we have all the things that are going on in the world today, the cybercrime and all that. Why don't these people get a real job? It is their job, right? They
Mhm.
do this for a job. And, to them, one of the criminals, when I started arguing with him one time on a call, he said, I wouldn't have to do this if you'd hire me. I'm like, this is not the way you get an interview right here.
Yeah.
But most of the time we see it as it's motivated by money. But with the things that we have going on in the world today, there are a lot of folks that are motivated to just wreak havoc,
Mhm.
just cause trouble, make things harder for everybody, create discontent, create anger, create, that is their job. So, cyber war, we've talked about it forever. It's just an extension of that, of manipulating people. That's what cyber crimes are often about. It's just what is their motive of manipulating people, which can, in their minds, some people think it's, oh, I just do it for the lulz to shut down a business for the day or two.
Mhm. Yeah, just wanna see if I could.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, lulz are it's
LOL.
just for laughs. Just for laughs, just for fun. Yeah, that's what they do. But then we have, we're sitting here today right after the attacks in Israel over the weekend. We already have everything going on in Ukraine. We just got a notice about North Korea and Chinese cybercrime threats, particularly to healthcare, on the rise. That was in September. So we have to realize that the threat is real.
Mhm.
The struggle is real. So, while many of us would prefer to put our head in the sand, I know it feels good to do that from time to time, doesn't it, David?
Yeah, the sand is very warm on my neck.
But just saying I'm not going to answer my phone or look at my email is a big thing today.
Uh-huh.
And it's because there's so much coming at us. That fatigue alert, alert fatigue. You're spot on there. It's a serious problem. The question is, what alerts am I getting thrown at me?
Mhm.
Because if you're not technical and you're getting all the technical alerts, you know, they don't know what a CVS is. CS, cyber vulnerability score, cybersecurity vulnerability score.
Yep.
So that actually is happening, but we're saying you don't have to know that, but you need to know what's going on and you need to know when to ask questions.
Yeah. This is another one of those things where when I talk to clients, particularly, I can talk about how you don't realize how much time and energy and money goes into just filtering through information to figure out whether or not we should be concerned about something that might involve you as a business and as a client.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's providing you cybersecurity services and they're doing it correctly, it is a very, very expensive and full-time job, even if you never see anything actually happening. As a matter of fact, if you don't see anything happening, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah. And so that when you look at the big picture, yes, we know this stuff is overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully you have people that are making that effort, like David talks about his team does. We see it, we evaluate it, and we act on it accordingly. Now, does that give you a pass because I can trust that David is doing that?
Nope.
Okay, well, that was easy.
No, you shouldn't, because you don't know. So you're making an assumption there,
Mm-hmm.
You should trust but verify. It's always a good idea to follow the ISACs of your own industry. And if you're in healthcare and you're getting information from another source, which you should, not just from your IT company, that gives you information to go back to them and say, hey, do you know about this and what are you doing about it?
Yes. And that's our big thing that we try to do, is not to replace IT. We want to work in conjunction, providing a different set of information.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they align.
This is where it plays into, are you on the cybersecurity team? Because if you're constantly trying to push that role off on somebody else, like, I don't want to participate in cybersecurity at all, I want to abdicate the whole thing, that's a problem, because you're setting yourself up for a very, very bad time, because you're not wanting to participate, because you're either on the side of good or side of bad. And if you're doing absolutely nothing, you're on the side of bad, because people are going to leverage you to attack other people.
Mm-hmm. Big time. And that alone is why we say we're all part of the cybersecurity team today. Everybody's a member of the team. I am the CEO and a member of the cybersecurity team.
Yep.
You can be the janitor and a member of the cybersecurity team.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
If you don't believe that, listen to some of the people who do the physical pen testing.
Oh,
If you don't think your janitor is a big part of the cybersecurity team.
Yeah, there's many times that's been the person that stopped something from happening.
Yeah.
That looks odd. They know what looks odd better than most people would even acknowledge, and they take action. So, yes, very much so. And there's a couple of reasons that you want to participate in this, besides just knowing these alerts are coming. But, for example, because we talked about the ISACs, and there's a big one called the Health ISAC. So it's specific to healthcare, and it's global healthcare sector, information sharing, analysis center. Now you have to be a membership of this. It's you pay for being part of this, but as part of that, you get access to a lot of people and participating in a lot of things. So there's a lot of reasons to do that. If you're somebody like us, it makes complete sense to participate in some way in these groups. And I keep trying to decide which one I want to participate in more. Or we just go make our own. But from Health ISAC, they published a article that, what is the date of that one? It was clearly this year, but in their 2023 State of Cybersecurity, blah, 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 the exploitable,
that word.
Read that title.
Let's see here. Which one are you on here?
The exploitable, the since 2022 surge. The first link there in the show notes that I gave you. The exploitable vulnerabilities that expose healthcare facilities.
Yeah, they surged nearly 60% since 2022. So just this year. Not even a full year.
Yeah. And that is it's from Health ISAC, and they're reporting on some new studies and data that's come out. So that's a massive amount of increase, and we ain't even to the end of 2023.
Mm.
So there is a big piece of why we say you need to accept the fact that, yes, everything's coming at you because there's that much going on. So we have that first, but one of the values is Health ISAC. It also, gives you access to that information when those reports come out, so that that's something that you can put into your risk management planning. And that also explains why everybody else has been so busy.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other source, and this is something that on the small and medium, or the small guide, technical guide 1, there's another way that you could narrow things down to only U.S. healthcare related items that you should worry about. And that's through our friends over at the HHS. It's the Office of Information Security that's responsible for securing HHS and all, working with us, and like our 405D folks, they're under that and all of that. But there is the Health Sector Cybersecurity Coordination Center. That's why we call it HC3.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think I can ever get that out right without stumbling.
I know. I had to focus. You heard me focusing, right? But they have a regular alert. You can subscribe to it. You can go to the website, which will give you links in the show notes like we always do, so that you can get those alerts. And we get those alerts and make a lot of decisions about what to share and what to talk about because of those alerts. And sometimes it's, here's something, it's a presentation, here's what's going on. So they did one on North Korea and Chinese cybercrime threats to the healthcare public health sector. That was September 21st, so just recently. And they explain how all of that works. And it's got great information in it about how one of the networks works. And just so you know, David, they categorize this Gosnam network as mid-size cyber criminal gang because they only have $100 million in theft.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. And they do cybercrime as a service. That's their whole thing. And when you go through and look at all of the things that are in that network and how it works, and that they have all of these different countries that are involved. So we go out, and there was big news recently, remember the FBI had shut down some of these gangs. Remember, we even talked about how they did it. Well, now all the people that got away are now forming new gangs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on, and some of them are unorganized. Some of them, it's different groups. They're trying to okay, I'm going to be in charge so I can make more of the money.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, physical crime in that it always creates a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen that numerous times over the years. There's been lots of online crime, people and syndicates and bosses and everything else. And every time you take one down, like I remember a number of years ago where they took down, Silk Road and some of those other ones that they did a lot of crime on the dark web. And sure enough, when it goes down, it doesn't take long for you have that vacuum that happens and somebody else comes in and there's turf wars online and everything else. So it's a constant problem.
Yes, and if you ever, I remember it was just recently. Well, it was earlier this year. There was multiple ones they shut down. We go back and see when we did that episode where we talked about how the FBI got in and monitored them and was giving out the ransomware keys to people that got hit so they wouldn't pay.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a big group that they shut down. And it's about time, as we always say, they have a disaster recovery plan too.
Mm-hmm.
They have a business continuity plan.
And not only that, but they do better information sharing than we do on the outside, which is sad.
Yeah. Because everybody wants to hide the fact that we've had an intrusion because we don't want to tell anybody we had an intrusion.
Mm-hmm.
So now they let you do that anonymously, which is another thing that they are able to do through those ISOs, because you don't have to be a member. You can just let people know, hey, by the way, this has happened. The FBI would love for you to report to them anytime you have a cyber attack so they can see what's changing. But if you don't understand most of what's coming out from the ISACs, if you start looking at the ISACs or an ISO and you just kind of look a little bit at what they're putting out, you can go to the HC3, and at least in it, you're going to see that they teach you about these things and send out like the alert on North Korea and China is it's a offered in like a webinar sometimes, but you can always get the PowerPoint. You can pull those slides. It's great information, and I can read those slides and get something from it. And it doesn't require me to read those slides and get something from it because it's pretty pictures. But but they also have things like the other one that just came out recently, securing remote access and management software.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know this has been a problem. And they're specifically hitting up the VPNs, the remote desktop software, telehealth platforms, the messaging apps. All of those things can provide a really beautiful target.
Yeah, they can.
And there's so many ways. I mean, first of all, the vulnerabilities show up all the time. And then the brute force attacks, which those drive me nuts. That just means they keep pounding away until they either break the system or get in. And then, of course, social engineering and then ransomware attacks. All of those come through that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the threat actor targeting of remote access solutions is not new.
Yeah.
There's a long list. And then but they explain all this. It just explains. There's an executive summary. There's common solutions used. How is this targeted? What do they use to target it? How do they target it? Kind of stuff. Who are we dealing with? And then recommended mitigations.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if you're doing recognized security practices, you're already hitting all these things.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
How isn't that odd? No, it's not.
It's by design.
But it's, utilize strong authentication, update and patch your software, network segmentation, encryption, monitor and log remote access, have access controls and permissions, do regular security training and awareness programs. Wow, boy. Have incident response protocols, regularly audit and assess security controls, and engage with trusted vendors.
What?
Well, that sounds like stuff we've talked about before.
Yeah. And if you have a trusted vendor, you might want to hand this over to them and say, are we doing these things?
Yeah. Can I trust you?
Yeah, are we doing them? And chances are they're going to say, we're doing some of these, but you should be doing some of these.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to have that conversation. We say this all the time.
It's a big problem that we know about Assume.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people come up and when I use that in a presentation, I'm like, we all know about Assume, and later somebody will come up and go, I don't know about Assume.
Really?
I'm like, here, write it down. It's like ID10T, But the other thing that comes out from HC3 is very specific alerts that we know are it involves some hardware, software, medical device, application, something that they know is likely being used in healthcare. And it looks really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So the latest one we got, we had a lot of these last week. Multiple things we just went through got last week. October 6th. So, was that Friday? Yeah. Recently, from the time we are recording this.
Mm-hmm.
Critical vulnerability in Cisco emergency responder platform.
Wow.
So, they then go through and tell you right at the beginning whether or not you should worry about it and, what they think you should do.
And this is what I was talking about earlier, where if you do have IT, whether it's internal or you outsourced it, you want them to know what you have. Even if they're not managing and monitoring that hardware, if it's connected, you want them to know about it, because if this is something that they get a vulnerability alert about, if I don't know you have this in your environment, then I don't think to share this alert with you.
Mm-hmm. And you probably, so this is why, like, when I share this in Garden Club, I'm going to say, you need to ask if the Cisco emergency responder platform is in use anywhere that you're connected to. Maybe you're not doing it, but somebody else is, and maybe you're the one that's going to alert them.
Yep.
So it's part of the Cisco Unified Communication Platform. It's being used in several places. They feel pretty certain. And the exploitation of this vulnerability allows for a cyber attacker to completely compromise a vulnerable system and then utilize it to attack. Because once they have complete compromise, they can go anywhere they want. One must assume they are already in.
Yep.
So this would be the alert that you would read that first part, and it just says that HC3 recommends that healthcare organizations identify vulnerable systems in the infrastructure and prioritize the implementation of this update, because there's a fix for it.
Yeah. Imagine that. Just pat.
I know, right? If you just do it now.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is you read that first part, and then you know what you're going to ask whoever your technical people are. And don't let them go, oh, that's not you. You want to say, do we use any of this? Period. So you can sign up for the HC3 alerts on their website. You get these alerts, and then they do a monthly bulletin that you could just hit it, where it talks about the CVEs. That's what I was trying to get to, the CVEs. And it groups them. So there's Microsoft, Google and Android, Apple, Mozilla, Firefox, Cisco. So you can go through quickly if you know what you have, which is why we say it's important to know what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, David, I think that, more people will now rush to join an ISAC because they've heard this discussion.
I do too. I think we'll break the internet. Yeah, I would hope so. But you and I both know that many people that are listening will say, I'm sure somebody else is covering this and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Our listeners are pretty savvy, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe
Somebody's going to tell them that, though. They're
Yeah.
going to say, we need to do this. Oh, somebody taking care of it.
Yeah, I'm sure Johnny's doing that,
I know IT's doing it.
Yeah.
So make sure that you you don't have to be technical. That's the thing that's most important. You don't have to be technical. You don't have to get in the weeds. You have to know when you should be making sure somebody's in the weeds.
Right. It's just like participating in your own healthcare. Like, I don't know all the ins and outs of the diagnosis and treatment and all this kind of stuff. All I know is I need to participate at the level at which I understand you're telling me that I have this illness and I've got to take these pills, or I got to do this, whatever, this routine. I understand that part of it. I don't need to know the rest of it. That's too in the weeds for me. That's for the healthcare providers.
Yeah. And that's like, I have high blood pressure, and, there are times where I can feel that my blood pressure is very high. Now, I don't know the mechanisms that are making it that. Often, I've just had to talk to you. And that...
So every Monday about 3:00, her blood pressure spikes.
Yeah. But I don't know all those mechanisms, but I know how to recognize it and how to tell somebody what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That I can take some action, but I also know how to recognize when I need to take more action and get someone that's an expert in the field involved.
Yep.
And that's really what we're saying you need to do.
Yeah. And that's how these alerts often are set up. It's just, if you just read the first couple paragraphs, you know enough to know whether or not you need to do something else with it.
Or ask more questions is really the first thing you should do. If you're not sure, then ask more questions. Mm-hmm. That's it.
It's very similar, like if you got a recall. Like if you got a recall in your car, you're going to go read a little bit of it. It goes, does this apply to me? Is it the same car, the same year, same model, whatever? And then you'll make a determination as to what next steps are going to be. You don't know everything about the technical aspects of the car or why it's got a recall and all that. You don't need to know all that. You just need to know, does it apply to you? And then you can ask more questions. Because
it's all in there. You just don't read that part.
No.
You let David read it.
See, I don't even read it. Like we get a recall notice on like food. I'm sending it to my wife. Like, do we eat this?
Yeah, that sounds like you. Did we eat this?
Yeah, I don't know. I see it, out of the bag. I don't know.
I'm not sure where that came from, but I ate it.
Who knows? Yeah,
Jethro.
It tasted good.
Them's good victuals, right, Jethro?
Yeah. That is true.
Alrighty then. I think
sounds good.
That we've alerted you to the alerts and why you need to not ignore the alerts that we've alerted you to, unless it's an alert that you've determined is not specifically related to you.
Yes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share us out on your favorite social media site and give us a rating and review. We always appreciate those. And remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.